America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, take the roll. Excuse me. Give me a clerk.
Dear Lord, we are here to discuss issues that will affect the people in our community. Be our leader during this meeting and show us the way, because you have chosen us to be here in this time and place. We thank you for the abundant blessings you have bestowed on Linwood Township. Come and give us wisdom to make the right decisions for the benefit of our residents. Guide us in solving the problems that come before us tonight. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Clerk, take the roll.
Supervisor Milburn.
Here.
Supervisor Ledke.
Here.
Supervisor Olson.
Here.
Supervisor Parker.
Here.
Supervisor Searing.
Here.
Purpose of this meeting is for the North County Election Integrity Team to present election information to the town board. Folks, go ahead.
First of all, I'd just like to thank you for letting ACEIT come in and talk tonight. A little bit about us. We don't believe that anything is going on here. We believe that everything is legit unless they are actually doing something in the machines while the election, but that does not show up. We are all bipartisan for our group, and we are all Christians. This is a picture of our group, and some of them, our group is here tonight. So elections are complex and outsourced. So with them being outsourced, we're unable to do a FOIA to get results and information that we would need. My name is Lisa Henriksen. I have lived in Linwood majority of my life, building our house in 1991 after purchasing land from my grandma Ruby. I've been concerned for many years. I've heard where the Democrats say there's voting fraud, Republicans say they're voting fraud, but I was very concerned in the 2020 election. August of 2021, I found out that there was over 720,000 mail-in ballots that had no voter ID connected to it when this vote was certified, which was very troubling to me because as soon as a ballot comes in, a voter ID is supposed to be connected to it. I then was helping out, before we developed that, I was helping out with I Thought I Voted. In the spring of 2022, we developed ACEIT. Started out with me, Brenda, and a few others, and God has brought so many good people that we needed to be able to do the data analysts and to do our research, that I'm just amazed, because there's no way that I would have been able to do that. So just want to go on. The Rasmussen poll shows that 2/3 of the country does not believe that our voting is safe and secure. Some of the things that Linwood can look at, this is the goals that we came up with that we thought would be achievable in the beginning. Smaller voting precincts. Linwood is okay. In the near future, we may have to look at it because precinct 1 is 2,300. They suggest that it should be about 2,000. The secured election judge data, that is outsourced, so we cannot do any FOIA for that information. There has been other places that have been hacked. And we've been working on verifying registered voters, validating paper ballots and paper books and the hand count paper ballots. I will have some of my other team discuss this for you.
Hi, I'm Brenda Miller and I'm from Columbus. And as Lisa said, we're a bipartisan group And we've grown quite a bit over the last two and a half years. And as we've refined our goals, and we've come up with these 6 that we're focusing on, mostly because we know you as city leaders can take back local control by following some of these, and we'll explain as we go along as to how that might work. And this will help take back control of your elections, make them more secure, and give your residents more confidence in the election process. I'm going to speak on the first 2. Let's see. And Lisa did mention that you do have 2 precincts here. The Secretary of State recommends that you keep them at 2,000 registered voters or less. And at this point, the next slide will show where you're at with that. The red line, of course, designates 2,000, and you have one above and one below. And so as time goes on, it appears you might be needing a new precinct at some point. I don't know if you've thought about looking at that. And that just keeps it easier to manage. And so in summary of that section, the cities are authorized to determine precinct size. And as I said, the Secretary of State recommends less than 2,000 registered voters. And we do have resolutions available for all of the goals that we'll be listing here tonight. So you can look at those resolutions if you're interested in that. Okay, the second goal is to secure election judge data. And as an election judge and having many friends who are, this is an area that some of us are concerned about. And we're recommending that you bring it back to local management and storage, because Anoka County, as you know, does outsource this information. And it utilizes Modus software through a contract with Intech Software Solutions Incorporated. And that's a non-governmental organization, and it manages the data related to election operations, including judge information. And the contract, as we looked it over, does have vague outlines of what the company's responsibilities are and who sees that information. And the shared data can't be controlled, and of course that of course causes a security threat to the election judge and potentially other items as well. So as you can see on this list up here on the slide, data transferred electronically, as we all know, especially online, is hackable. The data that's stored in the cloud is hackable. Encryption doesn't necessarily eliminate risk, and that's hacked every day, as we also know. Third parties that transfer data know the data is hackable, and so in this contract, they've infused language that seems to frequently clear them of responsibility. And because it is a non-governmental organization, it can't be FOIA'd. That means we can't request information to the Freedom of Information Act. So if it was hacked, judges really don't have an opportunity to find out much about it. And therefore it would be generally 0 to limited risk if you brought it back in-house. It wouldn't be that difficult. Let's see. So in summary, there's data risk in outsourcing, which we see every day. Government has an obligation to protect personal information, and judges are considered governmental employees. And we do have questions with the Intech contract, but as we said, there are resolutions available that you could look at to bring that back in-house to make it safer for election judges. Okay, and now I'll hand it off to Paul, who will
I have a
talk.
question.
Sure.
What does it mean, bring it back in whose house?
Back into the city, and you could have it on a PC here.
So it's not bring it back to the county? It's bring
Take it away from the county and bring it here. Yeah, okay, good question. Okay, I'll hand it over to Paul.
I'm Paul Barrett from Coon Rapids. My background is in engineering, a lot of process and manufacturing, putting together plans to make things. We'll talk about the next item here if I can get it to go. Verified registered voters. You've heard the expression junk in, junk out, maybe, or garbage in, garbage out. For me, the process is when I was doing that, I'm retired now, but I would make sure that all the inputs were vetted. Everything's coming into it, materials, training for people, machines, all that had to be certified and vetted. So this is one of them that needs to be vetted, which is the registered voters list, right? And so we go to the next slide, but hopefully you can read this. We got involved in the SVRS, which is the statewide voter registration system, what it stands for. Now, the state, I'll come down to the situation here, but the SVRS data is periodically provided to the counties by the Secretary of State. Okay, so that's just, in fact, we requested one, just got that yesterday. So we send it out, we look at it, so we're trying to get timestamps on that. But the county auditor, that we have here, in this case Tom Hunt, has that action, is delegated to him as a director of elections, must update the master list. The master list is part of that, it comes from that, is developed from that SVRS, used in each precinct in the county. So this is the one that you get that's in your tabulator, right? Not in the tabulator, in the poll books. And that's statute 201.091. So that's got to be maintained. They're ultimately responsible for that. It's not the state, it's the auditors, Pamela Block. So we did on August 8th, 2023, we became aware of their software out there that can go through that SVRS data from the state. There's a number of them now. We came up with a free one that was working, but we decided, can we get the county to go ahead and fund that? So I gave a speech to the county and said, can you provide funding to the county auditor for regular separate annual NGO, non-governmental organization auditing of the Anoka County Master List? That way they would filter out ones where you have duplicates. It's not always nefarious, it's just people moved and the old ones are left behind, and that becomes nefarious, right? And so I gave a speech, but I asked even through FOIA, did anything happen out of that? I don't know. We are not aware of any funding provided. I don't think anything happened. In April of this year, got with Tom Hunt on the side, and I said, can we give you a list of these? We get this software package, and give you a small list. Can you verify the software's working? Does it vet these out? Do you get duplicates, a variety of them? And he said he would do that. So the partnership was forged. We forged a cooperative effort with the county election director, Tom Hunt, to confidentially use the software. He did a great job. The software identified, I was really surprised, we pulled it up and there's 2,218 potential duplicate voter registrations in Anoka County by itself. There was more than 30,000 statewide, so we had a good share of those. And these are voters unknowingly registered in 2 locations within the state. They moved from here to there, because when you change your address, you're registered over here, but it takes a period of time for that to catch up through the mail, national, I can't remember the name of it offhand, but it's, help me out, guys.
National change of address.
Yeah, national change of address. That's puts in place, that usually it goes through ERIC, which is tied to the SVRS, and then it trickles down. But, so there's a period of time in there, and I don't know what that time was. But of that 2,218, that's what we had, and they were within state, multiple states, so they move out of state. And also they're somehow either living at P.O. boxes either now or in the future. So how does that work? You can't live in a P.O. box. So we provided that, and all those are nefarious potentials, right? They're still there, and the people don't even know after they move that their name is still over here in this other database. So the solution, Mr. Hunt validated an initial list, and he said, this is good. They're good, so give me the rest of the 2218. He asked us for them. So we powered through that. It took an effort. A number of us did this. Now, we were all vetted and held these names confidential, because it's not fair to people that they're out there. And there's quite a few up in here. People left or moved, that kind of thing, as I recall. But of these, ACEIT confidentially supplied 1,800 of them. Okay, because we went through that, and some of them that time were April 1st or freshers. So I said, we're not going to do April. We made the cutoff right there. We gave them older ones. So he went through that, and this resulted in what they call a PV, postal verification card. 969 of these for the county. We actually sent out these cards. You've gotten these cards in the mail. All of you have voted. They tell you what precinct to vote in and all that. And what happens is those are not forwardable, and that's by statute. They have to send these out a couple of times. And they come back, and then if they come back to the county, then they'll deactivate it or make it inactive. So if a person does come in to vote, they'll have to go through the whole process again. But that was done, the verification by mail. But what this tells you is what? What's the outcome of that? It says that something in the system's not working. There's 969 that we had to send out postal verification cards that should have been cleaned up, right? And so it's not working. It's not clean enough. So there's still junk in, junk out, right? And so let's look at the next slide. So here's some actions for you on. Really got to point this thing. Summary recommendations. County cooperation was excellent. I can't say enough about it. I'm meeting with Tom again this Thursday. I meet him on a regular basis. It's been very positive. But citizen advocates shouldn't need to do this, right? We should not have to do this. The county should fund and use a higher end filter, and there's filters better than ones we have for free. That's how it works. On its own, to maintain an accurate master list is required by statute 201.091. What you can do as the municipality is you should insist that the county maintain an accurate master list. So I would say a resolution requesting Anoka County fund and execute a high-end filter to maintain an accurate master list of voters is required by Minnesota statute 201.091. That's what I have. Thank you.
Evening.
Do you want to lift that up?
There, can you hear me now? All right. I'm Gary Kimmenmuller. I lived in Coon Rapids for the last 20 plus years. I was born and raised out on the farm in Rogers and went in the Army in Vietnam for 3 years, or 1 year anyway. And I was in electronics for over 45 years, so I worked at different places. So anyway, I'm here to tell you about paper poll books, and we're trying to point out how they're not just something that help you. There's a lot of mystery going on. And slide here. This works. Did I go to one far? Oh, I went backwards. Okay, sorry. I should have looked at this before I started. All right, paper poll. Okay. Anyway, we're trying to show you that you don't really need these poll pads, these electronic ones. If you look throughout the state there, the white is counties that don't have any, so you don't really need them. And the other ones are in different degrees. All the ones in the dark, they have 100% use of the poll pads, the electronic poll pads. And they're redundant with the paper poll pads that are at every precinct when you go to vote. And it's required by law that they have a backup copy, which is what you're used to having before 2018 or whenever these poll pads came in. So you wonder, well, why did they even want to bring it in there? If you look here, you can see there's some security issues here. There's risks. If you look at the left side, you see all the electronic part of this represents the poll pad, the electronic one. And it's a lot of nefarious things can go on there. A lot of information going every which way out in the cloud, and once it's out in the cloud, it's a big warehouse of memory that it can be hacked and can be given to anybody. You have no idea, and you can't ask because it's been contracted to non-government agencies, so they got that covered. So there's no transparency at all. And if you go strictly to paper, you don't have any of that risk. So here you can see the statutes allow you to have the electronics, but you don't have to. It doesn't say it's not required. So anyway, I included this slide in here so you have it in your documentation. You can read up on it. I won't try to bore you with reading the whole thing, but our statutes are not very interesting. Paperworks, all of Anoka County precincts use paper polls. Right. No. Here we go. Yeah, paperworks. All of Anoka County precincts used paper poll books until 2018. Nearby Isanti County still uses paper poll books in 17 of the 19 precincts. In fact, a third of Minnesota counties still use paper poll books. Minnesota Statute 201-225 subdivision, blah, blah, mandates paper poll books at every precinct for every election. They must be available as backup. They are printed at night before the election for every precinct. Each precinct maintains a copy on site on election day. So there's really no reason to have the poll pads there. The electronic poll pads have the same information in it. It's just that it's online, and that's the issue with it. It goes to a hotspot. If you've been an election judge, you know you have to set up a hotspot, and hotspot talks to a cell tower on the Verizon, and it can go over to China for all we know. But it's, the argument that the county uses is, well, this way if somebody comes in and they want to register, they can register right there off the poll pad, and if there's somebody that's lost and doesn't know where to vote, you can check it out for them and tell them where to go vote. Well, you can do this. What they did before the poll pads, they just have to get on the cell phone and call the county and say, where does this person vote? You know, it's like no big deal. It's a little inconvenience. So there's a little convenience added when you have the electronic poll pad, but it's how many people come in there that are lost. You probably don't have too much of that trouble up here. With paper poll books, they're updated the night before, so there shouldn't be too much trouble with running into people who've already voted. But if they do, you can see it. It'll show up on a paper poll pad. There's a little mark up there saying you voted already. That's when it's time to call the sheriff, I guess. We don't have that problem up here. Question?
I have comments, but I'll let you.
Okay, save them for later, all right. Anyway, in summary, you can return to poll books is a safe way to check voters in. Paper works, and it's cheaper. Many precincts in Minnesota use paper only. Option to use one poll pad per precinct as needed for the day of election would work if you wanted to find a hybrid combination of them. So you don't need three of them there. You could use the poll pad, everybody sign in. If somebody comes in there and they haven't registered, you could have one poll pad set up to do that. And that way all this information wouldn't be going out on the internet. So anyway, that's it for me. So thank you for your attention. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate coming up here. It feels kind of at home. It's a rural area. I miss that. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and board members. My name is Robert Kirchner. I live in Coon Rapids. I'll be talking about our goal number 6, hand-counted paper ballots through local management. And hand counting is a hot topic nationally, and there's a lot of different ideas about it. And it's kind of hard to get your arms around it and understand its position in our process. Is it feasible? Is it not? Is it legal? Is it not? All those kind of questions. We'll try to give you a framework here to think about that. Currently, the legislature has taken actions that help define the situation, either helpful or not, depending on your view. But along the left column, you see that vote tabulation machines are now mandated in the state for federal and state elections. And that essentially affects all of Anoka County. There's 128 precincts in Anoka County, so it affects them all. Cast vote records have been largely declared private, not public, under current legislation. And that's one way to audit, which now is not really a publicly available option. And counting at the polls has now been rendered essentially impossible by a legislative change this past year, or this year. And a couple other things, residential addresses are not needed now to register and vote, and also voting stations are now authorized at colleges and universities. So we've got some limitations on hand counting because of that. So why hand count? Well, the reasons to hand count is our system over recent decades has largely become hidden. And that's because it's largely outsourced to NGOs. It's commercialized, which means private companies really provide the materials that run our elections, like the technology, which makes it proprietary. We don't have access to source codes. We don't really know what the computers are doing. And it's largely private, which means it's not subject to freedom of information. And we already touched on the cast vote records. The second reason to hand count is we've never verified the vast majority of our election results. Under the post-election review, the only thing required to hand count is the President, U.S. Senate, U.S. House, and Governor as they come up in the state and federal elections. And then, of course, it's a small sample. On the right side, you see all those offices that are not counted. The presidential primary, of course, is not counted by hand. The state primary, all the offices in the state primary, the general election, the statewide Attorney General, Secretary of State, State Auditor. I modified this slide and I failed to put in there the state senators and the state house are not part of a per review. Of course, the county offices, the municipal offices, including township supervisors, school board, and ballot questions. None of those are actually required to be hand counted under a post-election review and have not been counted for literally decades, unless, of course, there's a recount. And a recount does involve hand counting and not machine counting. So that's a positive, but it's very rare that it happens. So the sample is just too small. The number of offices involved, the number of precincts involved is very small. That pie chart on the right side there illustrates how small it really is visually. I mean, it's an incredibly small sample. But under statute, it is possible to increase the number of offices and the number of precincts, and that's really what we're all about. Hand counting is a global standard. Most countries in the world hand count. The piling system is a proven method. Since 1959, the piling system has been in state statute, and that's what's always used on a recount here in the state of Minnesota. It's what's used during the very limited post-election review counts. We also know how long it takes. Nationally, studies show it takes about 6 seconds to process a vote on a ballot. And we had actually a recount in November, school board, 4,393 ballots, and they did a very good job at the county with this recount, and it took just over 5 seconds. So that kind of gives us a way to calculate time and cost. So to sum up, a feasible strategy then is to use the tabulators as mandated by state law, conduct the expanded post-election review, and count votes for only competitive offices, and we can do a time and cost calculation ahead of time. This is a very quick summary of a potential analysis for time and cost. For example, a precinct here in Linwood. And I'll just stop here. That concludes the hand count piece. I think you have a handout called Why Hand Count. That actually provides more detail on the whole process of doing that post-election review and requesting it from the county. And I will give your staff a copy of some drive which has the spreadsheet of this document on it, as well as all of our documents and all of the resolutions that we've been referring to. So thank you for your time and attention, and we have one more speaker.
All right, well, my name is Lori Mahold, and I live in Coon Rapids. I'd like to take a moment just to kind of weave together what you've heard from us and make sure that you know that you're the linchpin to saving our nation. Those sound like kind of grandiose words, right? But honestly, that's what we need is local control. And that's what these actions have been that we've been talking about. So the fixes really help you take back, the ones we're recommending, help you take back control, get the reins. You see, the truth is that that you do an excellent job of the portions of the process you still own. The problem is, as my colleagues have talked about, when you hand off control, that's when you lose sort of some of that accuracy checks. And that's the concern. I'll just give you a quick sort of fresh example with elections. At the precincts in your township, your well-trained election judge team makes sure the ballots are correctly handled, including that the ballot count on the tabulator changes as we hear that comforting clunk as it gets into the bin, right? And then we have perfected the process at the end of the night where we're taking the tabulator counts off that receipt and putting them on the summary sheet, and we do that great. The problem is that we're attesting to, under oath, what we're attesting to is that something we don't even know to be true. As election judges, we're affirming that the tabulators are 100% correct in how they recorded each vote for each candidate. But the truth is, we don't actually know if the candidate vote counts are accurate. We don't see that with our own eyes. What we see is, and here, is the ballot count, right? And yet we're saying on that receipt, oh yeah, we're validating that. That's concerning. So what we've come to realize is that control over many things has been removed from we the people. Control has shifted to the higher levels of government without us even knowing about it in some cases. And what's worse, as you've heard my colleagues speak to, is that there's a growing trend to turn control over to organizations that are outside of government, like the rubber stamp that we give on the NGO's equipment saying, yes, we agree with these vote counts. But you can stop that. We're working with the municipalities across Sonoma County to help them recognize the authority that they have and to exercise that authority to keep or return control to the local level. And we're very encouraged by some recent actions of Oak Grove, Ramsey, and Now Then, where those city councils overwhelmingly passed requests. And I just realized I am not hitting the clicker. I'm so sorry. Okay, here we go. Oak Grove passed a resolution, as did Ramsey, and most recently, just this week's, the city of Ham Lake. They all passed resolutions to bring that control back in. What they're doing is putting a resolution out there, which is one of the ones that we're recommending to you, that you need for you to know that your community's votes really got reported accurately. So we know people are hungry for the truth and for transparency. We recently had Liz Collin from Alpha News do an article on the work that we're doing with ACEIT because people want to know about this. And she did an article, it has a video, we can provide the link if you haven't seen it already. But there's been over 120,000 views of this since it was put out a few weeks ago because people really want to know that we're keeping an eye on this stuff. And they know that it doesn't feel like we maybe are to the level we need to yet. So we need our municipalities to exercise their authority, especially in the case where we're relying on those NGOs and their technology. In your packet is a sample resolution that if you choose, you can use to take action to request Linwood's votes are validated by expanding the PER done by Anoka County after each election. Make sure that you are part of the audit and that you don't settle for only that few upper races that Bob was explaining, but that rather you would say, I want the whole ballot, up and down. I want all the way down to those local elections. We need to make sure that you have the confidence that the people that the community selected are actually the people being reported as the winners. So I just want to kind of wrap up by saying we're very excited about the per opportunity here. We've got the 6 different things we've talked to you about, but when we brought this to other cities, they've said, tell us one thing we can do. And they kind of chose the expansion of the per, so we would recommend that for you guys as well. And just say, please know that your decisions are powerful and they influence not only today, but the generations to come as well. And so we want to encourage you to take back control of all the parts of the process. We've done it before, we've done it again. You guys are thoughtful, caring leadership for your community. And so your community is quite fortunate to have you, truthfully. And so we just wanted to bring this to your attention and say we would love to see you jump on board with this as well if you're interested. I know you'll have to talk about it amongst yourselves and get back to us, but there's all kinds of, in the slides, I think at the very end here, is contact information. We're happy to get back in touch with you guys at any point, but that's really what we had prepared for you tonight, and we thank you again, as my colleagues have. We appreciate you guys giving us this time and interest, and we're happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions?
I was not aware of what the group was going to talk about because the slideshow came this afternoon. So I wasn't, and kind of was on the fence on how I felt on some of these things until this last election. And there was enough events that happened here in Linwood that concern me. So I'd like to tie them back to how will that change if we were to ask for some of these changes to happen. So we're required to use the AB ballots for the early voting. The last 2 weeks are direct balloting where they put it right in the machine. And on one day, 3 of the 6 ballots jammed going in because they're folded. And when I asked the county, and so that is not good voter, that is not good voter confidence. The people were pretty upset that we had to open up the machine to pull the ballot out and then open up the box in the bottom to put the ballot in. They handled their own ballot, but it was very hard to convince them that their ballot had gotten counted. So that's one of the problems we had when I contacted the county. They said, no, absolutely, you have to use folded ballots for that 2 weeks ahead of time. So, and I do know there's problems with where it's folded. We did look at the ballots that were delivered here, and none of the creases were across a candidate's name. Again, there was only this much on this ballot, but for the November election, that is a concern. So that's another thing in your arsenal to discuss is why do we have to use pre-folded ballots that we know jam the machines? So that really didn't. That's just a suggestion. The other thing, when you're talking about how things can not go well, on that same day, the Secretary of State blocked Linwood Township for being able to access SVRS. We contacted the county because we couldn't get into the system. We had been in the morning, and in the afternoon we couldn't get in. I couldn't get on the Secretary of State's site. We were totally blocked. Linwood, from the state. So the county kept saying, no, it's an IT problem, it's a firewall problem, it's that, and it's like, we have been through everything here. We don't see anything. And finally, the county called the state, and it was like, oh, the state did put a block on you, but they'll remove it now. So you can go ahead and accept voters. So again, can technology, and these are just things that are convincing me that there's a lot more going on out there. The state did not have to answer why they put a block on us. I have no answer on why, and why they were so, with one phone call from the county, they were willing to take it off. So again, to support your position of technology and some of the things we don't get answers to. On election day, we had a person come in and they had changed their marital status, and they came in and they needed to, we went into the poll book, went into their record, and were able to, we had to actually re-register that person because their name changed. All of the judge's concern was, but what about, it didn't negate the voter record that was in there. So I called the county and said, when does that come out of there? That, because this person could come in and vote again if she went to a different judge. She would be able to come in because she's in the system twice. I got laughed at, but none of that. It's like, no, it doesn't come out of the system, but we'll catch it later. Where the county laughed at me was, but I said, but both votes would count. If this person came in and voted again, both votes would count. And the answer was a laugh. It's like, yeah, of course they would count. And it's like, well, that seems odd to me. Now, I guess I relate that back to the paper poll books. We would do those changes right in the poll book, and they're not going to come in and vote again because we have it in writing. You were already here and you voted. You signed that you voted, and we can note that there was a name change. So, and I don't know at this point, that other name has not been removed from there yet. So I'm hoping the software that's recommended will catch that. And they assured us that nobody will do that because it's a felony. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because that vote was already counted twice.
That's right.
They didn't come in again.
Right.
but it shows me where it could happen for someone that had nefarious, to use your word, motives. It could happen. I think I might have had. Yeah, that's really all I have. I'm very intrigued with some of your suggestions because I think there are things that would work with what happens on election day and what the judges deal with already, and some of the concerns that I've heard from the judges on, but how do we really know? How do we really know? I can say Linwood Township is clean at the level with our judges that are sitting there. I think they're very, very clean there, but what happens inside that machine? And even our testing that we do, I've been questioned about that. It's like, well, you test the machines ahead of time. We test the machines with predetermined results from the county. They mark the ballots and they give us a stick and say, make sure they match. They're not tested. They're predetermined results is what we get. So for the board, there's some concerns with what I see happening in Linwood Township, and we will talk about it again, but I just wanted to share some of the stuff you're talking about is we're actually seeing it at this level here.
Yeah, Pam, you're dead on with that whole testing piece too. We didn't get into all that, but that is exactly, you exactly nailed it. Predetermined results. Yeah. Sorry, Lisa.
So for the PAT test, actually their amount should be a larger amount. Our data analysts say that that is not enough to do a proper test.
A couple things, I missed a section. I suppose it's on absentee ballots, so we'll go back there real quick and I'll talk about Pat afterwards. Let's see here, that one's right. Of course, I realized it after Gary got up here. Here we are, validated paper ballots. So here's some, if you look on page 16 of your deal, there's some things you can look at here from a county clerk perspective here. 203B, 04, B15, those right here. County auditor of that county has designated the clerk to administer them, or the clerk has given the county auditor of that county notice of intention to administer them. So this is, you're going to be the ballot board here, okay? You can see how this has exploded over time. In Linwood Township, a lot of absentee ballots. I don't know, in 2024 we'll find out here, but here's some resolutions that are in the packet. Basically, it's absentee mail-in ballots have a greater risk of fraud. You obviously have chain of custody issues with the mail and this kind of thing. Counterfeit resistant ballots are available. Proportion of absentee mail-in ballots is growing, and we believe that ultimately it's not just the city, but the actual precinct. All of these should come back from the county and be handled right at the precinct level. And then you got the one book, right? You go through them all, and then you don't have to deal with people registering or voting another place. That's why they like the poll books, that justifies that. But anyway, you could adopt a resolution to administer the absentee mail-in ballots solely at the city, and then you saw the resolutions that allow you to do that. You create a ballot board here to handle all the ballots. And then your judges here, one of each, would go through and open them up, compare them, this whole 9 yards. And unfortunately, you still have to do into the machine. Now, I am meeting with Tom Hunt on Thursday. The first I heard of this, where you had to use folded ballots on that, for the direct ballot, the direct vote. Okay. And so I'll mention that to him and ask him that question. But thanks for that information. As far as PAT tests, I found when they're programming, you know how they repeat the quantity of the number? This is not, he doesn't know this yet. But if you have the same number of ballots for this contest and the same number of ballots in sample size on the next contest, right? They repeat those. Well, how can you not know within the whole ballot that you're not affecting something else if you have the same number as an output, right? And so in the programming, the law, you can't impact other races within the ballot. So I'm presenting that to him on Thursday, and we'll see where he goes from that, how he answers that question. But to get by on whether it's 68 or 69 ballots this last time, to do all that, it's hard. Okay.
Any other questions?
Some real quick ones. Who prints the paper poll books? Somebody was saying that they get printed the night before. Do you actually get printed ones?
We do get a printed master list, and, but it is printed at least a week before. So it isn't current to the night before. It's printed a week before, stuck in our blue bins, and then we go pick up our supplies so that they're there. So it isn't the night before. So it would not have every AB ballot that they've gotten in there.
Cost to recount precinct, they leave any estimates of costs to recount?
Yeah, I think you have that in here. I'll go further. Yeah, Bob presented that. And he also has a did this one, Bob?
Further.
No, keep going. He also gave you there it is. Its cost per precinct is $477 based on the assumptions that Bob put in here, but we gave you the, right there, it's in there, you plug it in, and you don't want to do all of them, Basically, it's all the contests. You want to do those, okay?
Good, thank you. And then my last question is this proposed resolution for Linwood Township, there was comment about how we bring back to be an in-house. Is that included in the resolution language to make that happen?
Which absentee ballots?
To bring the control of the elections back
In-house. It's a number of resolutions.
Okay, so okay. I read through this.
Hey, Bob, Bob prepared the resolution, so he's a government guy, he's got a lot of years.
40 years in rooms like this, and presenting and addressing questions. In the packet is a thumb drive, and there's actually 11 resolutions that touch on all of these 6 different goals. And they are written from a municipal standpoint, city, township, addressing the county. So it addresses these things that the county should take action on, and you would say you would want that action taken. And some are you can do on your own, like your own precincts, but they're all in there.
Any other questions, comments?
So would we be bringing this to the next board meeting for consideration? Resolution? Are you comfortable in writing, going through what they have and maybe making sure that it's covered to our favor? So that's what I would recommend, is if Pam's comfortable, I'd have her look at this resolution, make whatever changes she's comfortable with, bring it to the board for consideration and stuff.
It'll come up during the meeting, John. As far as the procedure that I intend to follow.
We're talking about elections.
We've got time for, I just want to comment, all your comments are right on the money, I appreciate that. Apologize for saying we have helpful pads that are made the night before, because that's the information we do receive. It's great to hear what's really happening out there, and you are a terrific member to have on this team to make the decision.
I don't make decisions.
Well, you influence them.
I
Your
administer
word
the
is
election.
very important, and I appreciate that, so thank you for that, and getting rid of the poll pads will get rid of a lot of the problems. As soon as you put it on the internet, you lost control. And that goes for the tabulators on the internet, poll pads. Nobody wants to handle too much at once. We're attacking the poll pads and doing the post-election reviews right now.
Well, again, I think key is talk with the people that are, talk with clerks, talk with some head judges that know what goes on in the precincts. If you can get from they're called incident logs, it shows what happens if anything other than by the book happens in there. Those incident logs detail everything that happened in that precinct. If there's anything outside of normal. So just another suggestion for you.
Yeah, I understand. I was an election judge once too, and they kind of blew that off. Oh, that's not important. So you get all kinds of variations. But thank you for your input. Thanks for all your time.
Any more questions? Any comments? Thank you very much for the presentation. If nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Take a motion to adjourn?
For a second, then move to second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.